Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of the 2021 Formula One My Driver Career Mode on the channel. And coming at you today, we got the British GP here at Silverstone Circuit. Not really looking forward to this race personally. I love watching it, but personally, when it comes to driving this track on the F1 game, I've never been a huge fan of it. We're in this stretch now. I think I mentioned it last episode that this is the kind of stretch in the season where I'm not a huge fan of. We go to Britain, then we go to Hungary, and those are two tracks that I'm not the greatest at. And then we also go to Belgium of Spa, Francorchamps, and I'm not great there either. So we're in this stretch of the season where I'm just trying to survive, basically, and that's the main goal. And if we can come out of it without DNFing from a crash or something, I'll be pretty happy. So that was kind of the main goal for this next 2-3 race span, is to just survive. So we have to unfortunately use a new gearbox in this episode, because if you watched the Austria episode, it was hands down the craziest race of the season, simply because of the AI being bad at Austria with the pit lane. But unfortunately we DNF because the brand new gearbox we got for the last race failed in the first race. So that was very unfortunate, which means no matter what, we're going to have to take a grid penalty. And obviously, with the Haas being so slow, we're not going to get out of Q1. So it's a guaranteed last place starting position. We come through into the race weekend, and we were here for FP1, where it was actually wet conditions. So for the very first time in the F1 2021 game, I actually get to go out and make a lap on the wet tires. So I couldn't pass up that opportunity. Just want to get more experience. It was looking like it was going to be a dry weekend, but like I said, I just wanted to get more experience here in the wet weather racing. And still, at the end of the day, the AI are just unbelievably better than you in the rain. I know I'm not running bad in the rain. I know I'm not slow in the rain. And obviously the AI, they are just on a whole another level. Like, they were seconds upon seconds faster than me on the wet tires. And like I said, I know for a fact I was not that slow on the wet. And this has been an ongoing issue in F1 games in general. So you can see the gap. Lando with the fastest time of practice 1. And then you had my teammate of Mick Schumacher down there in 14th place. So where were we? Well, Schumacher, by the way, 2.4 seconds off. I was over 5 seconds off, and like I said, there's no way I was that far off. I know that for a fact. So it's just the AI being godly here when it comes to wet weather racing. So we came through into free practice 2, did the little quick practice thing, simming through the programs, getting whatever we could get done. There was a lot to go through in this one because I didn't do many of the programs in free practice 1. So we would jump through, though, getting ready to go green for free practice 3, where we got to go back on some dry conditions. So this was our real test to see where we were this whole weekend. We didn't get to get an actual idea of where I was until the very last practice session. So free practice 1, it literally downpoured the whole session, so we never got a lap on the dries. This was my very first lap of the whole weekend on a dry tire, and obviously on the softs, just setting the fastest lap we could possibly set. I really made a mistake here through the S's. The understeer was really present here in Silverstone. I was really trying to adapt to it the best I could, get used to it. And you're going to notice that as the episode goes on, I was getting better at dealing with it. But just another heads up, with Silverstone, the AI are unreal through Sector 2. They can basically pin it when you can't. So it's very frustrating to deal with that. And we came through to the end of free practice, though, and I was actually ahead of my teammate of Mick Schumacher by 0.6 of a second. So the confidence was high going into qualifying. I felt pretty happy with where we were, and I was hoping that we could at least get a P15. That would, of course, put us into Q2, but P16 was kind of the realistic approach. Let's try to get P16, P17, and see where we end up here after the qualifying session, because we know we're going to be in last place, so just because of that grid penalty. I will say the random mechanical failures and whatnot, and just issues in general, are actually my favorite feature in this game. That's been a feature I've been asking for year after year, so it's really nice to finally get that. And it's, in my opinion, absolutely amazing that we could go, maybe in the future of this career mode, go to the final race of the season, a chance to win the championship or leading the championship, and then have a mechanical failure end our championship hopes. I mean, obviously that would suck, but that's what I love about a feature like this being in the game. It creates that element of just, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's been something we've been needing in this game for so many years now. And it's so nice to have it. It makes it more even and fair for the AI drivers. And of course, more realistic compared to real life now. As we were struggling in qualifying here, I definitely didn't have the best time on the board. This was my first lap, and I had kind of made some mistakes here and there. Didn't brake deep enough into the corners as I wasn't confident enough. I go wide right here, get an actual warning there for exceeding track limits, and we came through the last few corners through the penultimate turn, and I knew what my lap was going to be off because it was just mistake filled, and I just couldn't do anything about it. And yeah, we only beat Latifi, so 2 Canadians down here in 19th and 20th place. So now as we came through, less than 2 minutes left in the session, we have to make another attempt, see where we can get. Obviously, if we qualify P16, it doesn't matter, we're starting P20. I mean, right now if we go 16th through 19th, it doesn't change a thing of where we start for this Grand Prix, but I just wanted to prove the pace that we had, basically, just so I knew what was going on with this car. But unfortunately, my first lap was slower, so we actually forced a second lap here. Decided we're going to run one more, and I gained a lot of time once again, braking deeper and deeper every lap. I just was continuously building the confidence now, and I felt like, unfortunately, not being able to put an actual lap in on the dry tires until free practice 3 really hurt my pace in qualifying, and you can see I was just trying to get better and better as qualifying went on, and we were almost 3/10 to the good, and I nailed the S's right here, and that put us by about 4/10 to the good above our previous fastest lap. So we come through now into the final few corners, and obviously it's not going to be Q2 for us here in Silverstone, but we come through the final turn almost 0.6 of a second better, and that still isn't enough to beat our Haas teammate of Mick Schumacher, who put up a pretty solid and respectable lap now against ourselves. So you're going to see the order here in just a second now, as currently Lewis Hamilton was P1, but McLaren this weekend, again, looking very strong. Lando Norris has been leading that McLaren team all season so far, but you see Mick got us by over a 10. So no matter what, we're starting here in last place as we get ready to go for the Silverstone Grand Prix.
Great Britain then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every single year of the Formula One World Championship. And the circuit extends that record further for today's Grand Prix. The 3.6-mile long Silverstone circuit is one of the longest of the season, with 18 corners in the current layout. With average lap speeds reaching around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the quickest tracks of the year. Watch out for cars taking the right-handers of Abbey and Copse flat out. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat, Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Daniel Ricciardo starts from pole position today, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Perez, Sainz, Gasly, Tsunoda and Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Esteban Ocon and Hamilton, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher and George Russell, Latifi and the rookie. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Well, there you have it from David Croft, Anthony Davidson, now as we get ready to take the green here in Silverstone. Unfortunately, it's only a one-stop. I personally really like 2-stop races because it opens up more freedom with the strategy, and as well, and it can make you try and actually do a 1-stop when you know everybody else is going to do a 2-stop. So it adds a lot more freedom in strategy, and that's what I like about those 2-stop races. But majority of the races nowadays are just 1-stop, unfortunately. So it'd be nice if Pirelli could kind of create more tire wear and force 2-stop races more often. That would be really nice now. So obviously getting ready to go green here from the back of the grid. Not where we want to be, but we're in that Haas car. We're getting closer and closer to the Alfa Romeo team, and hopefully today maybe we can put a fight to them now, as it's 5 red lights. Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, the McLaren team doing great this season, and it's Daniel Ricciardo leading the way off the grid into turns 1. The first time this season he's really been better than his teammate of Lando Norris here, and it happens at Lando's home race now. now. As you can see, Daniel off to just a tremendous start now as I'm making a move here up the right-hand side of Nicholas Latifi. We got off the grid nice and calm here. Now I'm trying to get aggressive, make up these positions now as we're also going to pass George Russell there in the Williams now. Is actually, no, he's going to defend really well right there. He's not going to back down from a fight. We're going to be side by side with the Williams driver at his home GP, and now Latifi is going to make a 3-wide George in a Canadian sandwich right there as we come through. Still 3-wide. For a moment there might have been a little bit of contact with Latifi and George Russell. I almost get into the right rear tire of George, but finally out of the carousel we're able to get in front of Russell in the Williams and move up into P18. But just immediately, look at that, we're almost a second behind Raikkonen after that battle now, as you got to be really careful through Klopp's corner there. Obviously cannot go in at least our car full throttle anymore through that corner, unfortunately, as George tried to kind of sneak up my right hand side into the S's right there, but thankfully we were able to defend over him. Latifi actually got into a nice little scrap right there and got up in front of George Russell. But keep in mind, through Sector 2, the AI are just unbelievable. I couldn't understand it. They had this similar thing in Austria, and I've been watching, of course, other content creators, and I know Tom97 mentioned it about this specific sector here on Twitter. I saw him posting about that. The AI are just unreal with their pace. So I realized really quick that we're at this disadvantage, and it's not because my pace is lacking, it's just because the AI are able to just haul the mail through the S's and through Klopp's corner and just pull with so much time on me. So it's an unfair advantage they have. It's not my lack of pace or anything, which I was glad to know and realize. But unfortunately, that pretty much messes us over for the rest of the race now. As up in front of us, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari is actually going to be the first DNF on the day. He is pulling over. I don't think it's an engine failure. I didn't see any smoke from that car, but obviously a mechanical failure of some sort. And then now, actually, a lap later on lap 6, Esteban Ocon there in the Alpine actually has a puncture in his left front tire. Unfortunate there for the Alpine driver, as by the way, we're getting closer and closer to Alpine. They really seem to be struggling getting their R&D improvements going. So we come through to pass him, and we were now about 2 seconds ahead of the Williams of George Russell and Latifi going at it, but we were almost 5 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen as well as my teammate of Mick Schumacher. So there was concerns all around here because I just can't run those guys down, and I wasn't losing much in Sector 3 or Sector 1. We were actually relatively even and gaining sometimes through those sectors, but they are just so unbelievably fast through Sector 2 that I was overall losing more time because of that. So that was extremely, extremely frustrating. We cut straight through to lap 10, and so far, other than Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon, it's been a very, very calm GP, probably the calmest one of the season compared to last episode when we had the craziest GP of the season. So Schumacher came into the pit lane on lap 10, and then my pit window opens up a lap later on lap 11, so I decided we're going to come in. I obviously didn't really have much I could do at this point. I knew the disadvantage we were at, and I obviously knew there was nothing I could do about it. So Daniel Ricciardo would go by me after making his pit stop. He is setting a blistering pace here today, and that was very surprising to see, but I would come into the pit lane here on the end of lap 11, and already almost halfway through this GP. That's how you know it's been very, very calm so far now as we head down into our pit box there, and they're going to put that medium compound on, and we come out just in front of Latifi there. A bit of a close call as you're seeing a little bit more cloud cover come into the mix, but that's not going to affect anything. There is no threat of rain to Schumacher. He already goes by Raikkonen just in front of us on the medium compound as well, but you might notice that Schumacher is actually on the hard compound, and Russell as well is on the hard compound. So interesting there. They pit a lap earlier than us, put on the harder compound. On lap 14, Kimi Raikkonen had actually managed to get past Schumacher, and I'm realizing, you can see by the timing, I'm closing in on Schumacher, obviously, with the softer tire, and I'm easily going to be able to manage to put these medium tires to the end of this race. So now I'm like, okay, there's a realistic chance here that we can beat Mick Schumacher now, which was a bit surprising when we were about 5 seconds behind him or so when he came in to make his pit stop, and even after we had made our pit stop, he was still about 5 seconds ahead. And now less than 2 seconds, now a second and a half on lap 17 with 10 laps to go in this GP, but actually just in front of us, there goes Schumacher with an engine issue right here, as there goes, the engine expires, and he is going to be out of the British GP now. So, I mean, we're going to beat him anyways. There we go, but I was looking forward to a fight because ever since lap 1, we haven't had a single fight on track with anybody. It's been basically 16 laps alone here in the Silverstone GP. So now running in 15th place, and even with the disadvantage we were at in Sector 2, we were doing a pretty good job. But you notice for a brief moment, Lando Norris, he actually had to make a second pit stop. That's why he was so close to me on the timing. right there you saw why. He made contact with Bottas there on his left rear, got wing damage, immediately comes into the pit lane. So very unfortunate for Lando now, who's had a rough couple races with issues in Austria, as well as now today. So that's going to really hurt his championship hopes, but obviously still over half a season to go. He's got plenty of time. But we come through to lap 21. Just overall a very calm race here in Silverstone, making up for all the chaos from last episode. Now, as I can see these next few races being calm, on lap 23, unfortunately, you might notice my DRS had actually given way, and it had broken for the second race in a row. But now up in front of us, Kimi Raikkonen off the track. He's not out of the race. It looks like he's had some type of mistake, because he actually rejoins the track behind us. We move up into 14th position, and now we're going to get a look at what happened right here as it goes out into the left-hander. He just loses grip. A downright mistake from Kimi Raikkonen, and this is one of my other favorite features is in this game, is we're seeing the AI make a lot more mistakes this year, and I really like that. And it was just a straight up genuine mistake right here. He thought it was up on the curbs, around he goes. Very simple, very straightforward, and I really love seeing things like that present in this game. But now we come through to just 2 laps to go in this race, and like I mentioned, our DRS had actually failed 2 races in a row, which is unfortunate. But we come through to start the final lap, and we hadn't had an on-track battle since lap 1 of this GP, and it was Daniel Ricciardo leading the way. A little bit of an attack from Bottas there with some DRS, but wow, what a day from the McLaren driver of Ricciardo. And of course, McLaren, when Lando Norris struggles, they need their second driver to step up to the bat, and Daniel has done just that now in his McLaren debut season. Daniel Ricciardo, a surprising shock winner here today, as he picks up the victory for McLaren, as Max Verstappen is going to look like he's going to hold on to a podium position over Perez. Hamilton in 5th place, Charles Leclerc there in P6. You're seeing Sebastian Vettel for the Aston Martin having a strong performance there in 7th place, as Alonso runs 8th, Tsunoda 9th, and his teammate of Pierre Gasly rounding out the top 10 as he's under attack from Lance Stroll, but Stroll is not going to have enough there to fight him in the last few corners. So we're coming through here on this final lap. I was not expecting to see Daniel Ricciardo pop up as the winner. Of course, he's been fast this season in our My Driver career mode, but definitely not fast enough to win any races. Lando comes through to set the fastest lap there at the end of this Grand Prix, as I'm on pace to set my personal fastest lap here of the Grand Prix. But I'm honestly shocked to finish 14th place in this Grand Prix, considering the disadvantage we were at there in Sector 2. Obviously, with Schumacher's issues and Raikkonen's mistake, it helps us. Otherwise, we were on track for about a 17th place finish without Carlos Sainz as well DNFing from the race. So we come through to cross the line there for a pretty solid 14th place. I was actually pretty happy with that personally, considering what had happened here throughout this Grand Prix, especially with the AI glitch, quote unquote, there in Sector 2 now, as we have some post-race celebrations with Daniel Ricciardo.
Well, they've done a brilliant job, I must say, under some intense pressure to take a well-earned victory here at the British Grand Prix. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure, and no doubt they'll be celebrating tonight.
I think it would be really cool if they added in the shoey animation for Ricciardo when he was on the podium, or if he won a Grand Prix, but hopefully we'll see him do that soon in real life as well. At least get a podium and do a shoey. So he's, of course, got to step it up a little bit further if he wants to compete with Lando. But there you see the finishing order for the race here in Silverstone. So Ricciardo with the upset there for McLaren. Bottas in 2nd place. Hamilton had a rough day. He actually had that grid penalty, by the way, you saw there. So he actually still leads the points by 6 points over Max Verstappen. We are currently in 15th spot. Bottas up to 3rd. Perez to 4th. Unfortunately for Lando, with now 2 back-to-back races with a bunch of issues, he goes down the order a little bit there. So very unfortunate for him, but obviously he has time to step it up. And in the next episode, we will be going to the Hungarian GP. Like I said, that's probably actually one of my least favorite tracks on the schedule, so I'm not looking forward to that one. We do a big R&D upgrade, by the way, trying to get ourselves closer and closer to Alfa Romeo. You can see how close we are now. We definitely can put the fight to them if the AI aren't absurdly faster than us. That's a big thing to keep in mind there, especially in Sector 2 in Silverstone. It was unreal. So I was kind of glad to have that one over, and hopefully we get a patch soon that fixes issues like that happening again. Hopefully by the time we get here next season, that better be fixed. So overall, like I said, pretty happy with 14th place. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like we deserved a 14th place finish. By the way, average finish of 14th place here to start our rookie season. But before we end it, just want to say thank you to the Going Racing members on the channel of MJ, Joseph 9001, Timothy R-Line, Bubba Jr., Brett Durward, Dark Gengar Gaming, AJ Vasura, Russell Dixon, Kenneth Barnett, Dana9302, King Matt XL, Speed Demon 341, as well as Illinois Diecast. I appreciate your guys' support so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.